So right now we have 3 days left in session, so we're getting down to the final point of session. I will have to admit we're a ways away as far as between the House and the Senate budget, but we're going to do everything that we can to continue making progress in closing those differences. The main differences, again, are in the budget. The House has substantial taxes. From the Senate side, what we did, I think, is the proper approach in the direction that most voters wanted us to go, and that is, make a strong investment in education. We put over $1 billion in dollars that were related to the McCleary lawsuit from the Supreme Court. As far as total education dollars, we're at $1.8 billion in new education dollars this biennia over last biennia. And we did that with no new revenue. The growth in revenue that we've had is just that naturally occurs from biennia to biennia. The House, in their budget, has over $900 million in revenue growth. Now, what you're going to hear out there in the public too often, and this is the big debate in Olympia, is it's for the kids, it's for education. But it's funny to me when I look at that budget that if you really dig deep, that $900 million is real close to the difference in the House and Senate budget in non-educational expenses. So to me, it's the revenue isn't about education. We have done our part in the Senate in a bipartisan manner, 21 Republicans, 9 Democrats, to live up to our educational obligations, not only from a constitutional standpoint, but from moving the economy forward and giving our kids really the kind of education they need. So what we're talking about revenue-wise is really other aspects of government, growing the bureaucracy, making sure that every little program has growth. What we're trying to do in the Senate is let's reprioritize government so that government is focused on education, trying to redirect those new streams of money so that it goes to education, so that we can have the kind of education system that will then grow our economy, and through that growth we get the additional tax revenue. There's a couple of specific bills, and what we're trying to do in the Senate, knowing that we don't have a lot of new money from revenue, that can be directed in non-educational areas. What we're trying to do is grow the economy through some very specific reforms. If you look at, when we started this at the beginning of January, we were very specific on jobs, education, and the budget. And we have stuck to those reforms. If you look at on the jobs front, we have several measures, but I'll just mention a couple. As far as the workers' compensation, Washington State is one of the most expensive out there. For companies like Boeing, they look at that. That's important. When they're making that plant decision between here in Washington and South Carolina, we want to win. But if we're not competitive, we're not going to win those kind of competitions that are going to be not only the Boeings of the world, but what we're seeing in a global high-tech world is all companies have the flexibility to move to different regions depending upon competitiveness, because they need to be competitive, because all of us are in a global economy. If you look at on the education front, we've done several things as far as trying to make the principal in charge of the school. It's not a novel concept, but currently right now, principals really don't get to pick, who teaches in their school. If we're going to hold them accountable, they need greater control of that school so that it sinks or swims. And if it's not making it, then we can hold them accountable, make the kind of changes that we need. But if they don't have control, it's hard to hold them accountable. And then we get in this vicious cycle, who really is accountable? And that's the problems that we're having today in not moving forward some of our education programs. On the budget front, there's a lot that we're trying to do. I've had several bills dealing with pensions. We have a bill by Senator Bailey that is optional as far as moving to more of a 401k type plan. It doesn't force any of our employees, but for a lot of our employees, especially our young employees, it's kind of the direction, because so many kids these days, they change multiple jobs throughout their career. In fact, they'll have multiple careers throughout their lifespan. And they need that flexibility, because the way our current system is, basically you don't get vested until you've been here for 5 years. Well, a lot of these people will never be in that system for 5 years. So let's give them an investment tool that works for them from a retirement standpoint. Some of the other things that we're trying to do is, I've been a big advocate for wellness and health. I truly believe that in order to get our government expenses down, we're going to have to address health care in a more meaningful fashion. One of the programs I had was to create a wellness program as far as state employees in our health insurances, giving them incentives when they do the right things, when they maintain their weight, when they maintain their health. We need to incentivize health. So there's a lot of things we're trying to do here in the Senate. We're trying to really do a balanced approach where we're looking at the economy, making sure that we don't take vital dollars that our employees and employers need to expand the economy. We're trying to expand the economy in the private sector, not just the public sector. It's really easy to go out and buy jobs from the government, but what happens is every job you buy from the government, those are taxes that are then no longer able to be used in the private sector. What we're trying to do, and that's the real difference I think down here in Olympia that you're seeing, is we're trying to grow the private sector. Through that growth, we can have additional revenues that can then get some of those things that currently we can't afford. But first and foremost, we're going to prioritize education and try to make sure we move our economy forward, and with that, we'll move Washington forward.